Evolutionary.org, episode 667 is coming your way. Today we have an interview with EVO brother Lipster. So you can come on the forum, top right, click the search button under member, Lipster. He has an excellent log going, and you can basically pull him up on the forum at any time and look at his signature. And in his signature, you'll always be able to find his log. And his log is a pretty simple name to it. It's called My 2023-2024 log, but it is continuing to go into 2026. And it is quite a fascinating log. It's got a lot of information on his training, his diet, his life. He's been through a lot of stuff. So we're going to get into as much as we can. First, though, let me remind everyone we are on Apple. We are on Spotify. Smash the like button, subscribe, comment, and all that stuff. It helps the algorithms pick up our podcast. So take it away, Mobster.
As always, when we do these shows, and I'll jump right into the topic very shortly, we make sure to thank the guests for coming on, Lipster, because it's early in the morning where you are. The day's barely got started, and you're taking time out of your day to come on and do this show. And we don't have shows without guests, especially these kind of shows. So, on behalf of myself, Stevesmi, the bosses of the forum, the moderators, and the members of the forum, and of course the listeners, thank you very much for taking time out of your day for coming onto this show.
You're welcome.
I will jump right in, and
Okay.
Lipster and I have had this quick conversation already. One of the things we've noticed is your kind of recent transformation, which seems to suggest that we will get into this, listeners, especially during the rest of the show, because Lipster's given a lot for us to work with, is that you've gone from a kind of soft 205 to a much harder, much more conditioned 205. This is literally based on the numbers that Lipster provided. So tell the listeners what you think you did differently this time around that's enabled you to make that transformation. What mistakes did you correct? That kind of stuff.
Well, on the pictures, I'm about a 205, and so before those pictures, I mean, I would have not eaten yet, and I did work out. So I would have probably been close to around 197 going if I was, because I was about 12 hours out when I wanted to take those pictures before eating. And so well, just to be clear on that, but the 205, the big difference, and from the beginning where I made a resolution in 23 compared to now. And I'd say the biggest thing was I've been up and down throughout the weight and over the years. And even before working out, I've been as heavy as 240, 245 in my life. Probably, and that was not in shape. And I've trying to get in shape, for starting off just jogging, trying to do my first push-ups. I even got all the way down to 157 pounds from the 240 era. And that was in my 20s and 30s. And when I was in high school, I remember first time benching 135 for football, and I was ninth grade. And, I could do it 6 times, and, that was pretty good for a ninth grader. Well, in my 30s, when I did all that and dropped down to 157, and I thought I was doing really good because I could do pull-ups for the first time. I was jogging and push-ups, and I was, that. But first time I got underneath a bench again, and I did 135, and I only could do it 4 times. Not knowing how to eat and not knowing how to diet, and just trying to cut weight. Never seen abs even at 157. I guess he's learning different body types like mine. They'd say a skinny fat.
Can I ask you a question? Because I'm thinking, again, Steve, for listeners, and especially the younger listeners, you go to the gym, you read something online, you have a kind of vague idea what you think you're doing. And then sometimes the younger guys can be very disappointed because they're not seeing these changes. And I'm guessing from what you said, and especially from what you just said, you've gone through different stages and whatever else. And then over time, you must have learned what you've done wrong, where you corrected. So give us a few examples of where you started to realize you might have been making mistakes and how correcting those mistakes has enabled you to make that transformation to where you are today. Did it start with a big decision, or was it just learning how to train?
A lot of learning And I mean, I've watched a lot of TikTok and stuff like that. Watching different people, Sam Sulik, and then coming across different bodybuilders and then information. And I like to cross reference and so then different training. And I had a couple of friends that were in it for themselves that started helping also. Um, in the beginning, I mean, and at the same time, but this is now and not then. I mean, at first, like you say, starting off and waiting for results. At the same time, it was probably lucky I didn't know what I was doing because at least I was trying and I was putting in like full effort, in which that is so important before like you know this now, but like so many people try like to go from like sitting or not really working out and just want to go full blast and then grab everything you possibly can and have a special magic transformation in like 30 days, like what you see. And for me at least, I was lucky enough to where I took a couple years and it was I did see some results at like 193. I finally started to almost see a figure and muscle definition, I thought, and I was pretty happy. And that was after a couple years, but that at least I did build how to lift form and different routines. Trying I did the bro split way, but at least also learning to like push and then pull the next day, not try to hit every muscle every day, run every day. Like I wanted
I'm
to.
gonna ask you, Lipster. Sometimes we see guys, as you just said, actually, they're almost ready to run before they're walking, and you even said something about, uh, in a way, those first couple of years kind of taught you stuff, and you're almost a good idea for you to have taken those couple of years. So sometimes we will say this on the forums: we want guys to learn how to train, we want guys to learn how to eat, and then they start to look at PD. Something you wrote in your notes that you've given us to talk about today is goals,
Yeah.
structure, and reality. So talk about goals changing and how having goals has enabled you to do what you've done as well.
Well, when I was first going, when I was younger, I always wanted to be in shape, and I mean, I just worked out and stuff in school, but never got there. Older, got married, got way out of shape. I always thought about it. Got close to like 40, and I was like, you know what? Yeah, I don't I drink no more. I don't have that lifestyle. I was single, and I was like, I just want to do this for myself, and just a different mindset. Like, didn't have all the other stuff holding you back, like the younger lifestyle of a child or a kid. So, like, I just really wanted to go for it, and it took a couple of years. And when I hit that, it made a big difference. And with the mindset of setting that first goal, and also I sort of stalled and it did hit, but before the PEDs, and had a first little setback, and I think 42 years old. I did have my first blood work tested. Even though I was working out the same, even trying to grow in strength and going, I finally started having a little form. All of a sudden, I was like, man, it looks like I'm losing a little bit, even though I'm trying even harder. And that was the first time I had my blood tested, and all my testosterone was like a 302 and 42 years old, and I was like, man. And that's when I first started trying I was everything you could buy at Walmart to anything you'd see online, like that kind of way, from GNC stores and
Yeah.
stuff like that, protein powders and everything, muscle builders what they say, but I didn't know anything yet. But I did come
That,
across.
that would be, sorry, that would be to try to get your testosterone levels back up to at least what we call baseline.
Yeah.
Um, something you said here. What did you learn about setting goals that actually fit your life, and exactly what you just said in regards to your age was what you can do when you're 20 versus what you can do in your 40s, and then you go on to say not just your ego. So talk a little bit about that as well. The shift of consciousness, perhaps. I'm not 20, I'm now 40. I need to bring my
Uh,
T levels up, and so
that
on.
would
Yeah.
have hit right after that. It would have been at the end of 22, going into the year 23, and it was October, and I was just like, what do I feel right? And this is off. I did have a couple drinks, and I started to drink a little. couple shots and stuff. It was like 10 years without drinking. And it was just a couple months. And within a couple months, I looked at myself in the mirror and it was New Year's. And I was like, how did I lose everything I just worked 3 to 4 years for? And I was like, I look like this again. And that was probably the first pic. That's the picture I started with. And I took that picture in the mirror, and I wanted to face it. And it was the first picture I was ever willing to even put of myself online or anything. And I showed it, and I was like, I'm not gonna look like this no more.
What do you have to say to people out there with the drinking who believe like the bullshit? They want to justify their drinking by saying, "Oh, one drink a day." I saw a study that one drink a day is good for you. I can't believe how dumb people are to actually believe that. Touch a little bit about that and how harmful alcohol is and how you feel on it versus off of it. Because I haven't touched alcohol in 25 years, and I don't understand why people want to put that trash in their body. Even one beer, for what? What the hell is the point?
Yeah, I mean, I remember as a kid, I mean, you'd have way different, and you're having fun. And so when I drank a little bit here, I mean, the first time, I mean, I was out like on a date, and we had one beer, and that was one thing, and it wasn't so bad. But like after even a couple, and it was just like oh, it didn't wasn't so bad. Like the next day when you get up, wake up to go work out, it's just different. You're not, I mean, I could still feel it in me, and it's not the same. I was like, wow, it just right off the bat was conflicting. I was like, I just want to get the workout over. It's take your pre-workout, and you're not feeling so up. You're just trying to get through it. So it didn't. And like I said, so I didn't try it so much like when I got older. But I mean, as I said, that was probably lucky when I was older, and I only tried it for like, I didn't want to look, like I said, probably about a 2 month binge. It didn't help because of like one drink, two drinks. It wasn't long. And, it's easy for me to slip because I can easily say I'm an alcoholic. So even if you don't, I'm glad I don't drink. But it's easy to slip into it. But the damage of one, two drinks, it's like, I mean, it's like it's
Yeah,
so easy to throw away an entire week of working out. And it's like, if you're really taking it seriously, I'd say just a
yes.
couple drinks in a day is like that week starting over, and hey, next week try again.
So what do you
Yeah,
can you be
you're
specific?
taking one step forward. Sorry, Steve, you're taking one step forward, two steps back. So just training is the one step forward, and then you're making it that much harder to grow or that much harder to get leaner. And the only person to blame is you. There's no support person running around saying, "I'm going to fuck
Yeah.
you up. I'm going to stop you training and being good." So yeah, you have to realize, as Lipster has done, that these, whether it's alcohol or anything else, these little things that you enjoy are arguably also potentially holding yourself back. And when Lipsa
Yeah.
puts that picture
We've had this
to
before. I mean,
prove,
I just don't
yeah,
understand enjoy like, oh, you're having a good time, whatever. You can have a good time without drinking. Find new friends,
yeah.
do a different hobby. Because if that's your life, literally just going to a bar and drinking with your friends, then you live a pretty shitty life. That's what I always
It's
tell.
even worse when you get to
Mm.
40, Steve, because the great thing that Lips has touched upon is we can get away with murder when we're younger in terms of booze. But when we've got low testosterone levels, when we're middle aged, 40 plus, that's when the guys start to get man boobs and beer bellies and stuff like that. And then you're kind of stuck. And Lipster's trying to make a transformation. Lipster wants to look better. So he goes,
Yep.
I'm assuming here, Lipster, you're going, what the fuck am I doing? I need to stop this shit because I want to look better. I want to be in shape. So yeah, tell us a little bit about
Yep.
that as well.
And then yeah, I that's about when I first went to pro hormones. And I said I was gonna go and try them. I did a lot of as much research as I could. I started reading a little bit more about what I started to learn about working out. And so like you do have to like how you cycle them on and off. I know they're like not even like close to like 20 years ago what pro hormones were then. 'Cause, they're way different, a lot safer, a lot very not nearly as effective as they were back then. But, with that in the mindset, I don't know if I just went in, even if it was pure placebo, but I went in with a full, like, I'm going in and I'm going to put everything I have into it. So, like, went and I was like, I'm going to track the food. I'm going to see calories, try to do some, at least a decent macros. I didn't, at least knew macros, didn't know the difference between whole food and frozen food yet and stuff that came. But at least I was going to start trying to eat chicken, not fast food, and not bologna and cheese. It was going to be rice, or at least trying there. And I added vegetables and then fruits. Picked up vitamins and stuff too. And but when I went in after the pro hormones and I did the first thing, I did a little build up and I was like, God, I had a little epiastrodone and I just felt a little bit different and pushed. And I was like, God, I seen a little gain in strength and I was like, finally, I finally pushed past the first plateau, got that little feeling again where like, oh, I gained. And I don't know, I started a log for a while with them, and I just when I first started. But when I did my first diet on that, I was using like hydroxygen and laxogenin and just eating different and healthy. And I got to like 170 from that one picture, and that was about 208, 205. And when I was about 173, 171, I was like, oh my God, abs. And I did a little face, and I was like, oh, I got like almost like a pack of abs, which, like I said, at 157, I didn't have them. I was like,
How did that
wow,
make you
something.
feel? How you seeing that in the mirror? And again, this is more for the listeners. You're seeing that for the first time. You've been serious about what you're doing. You're taking the problems. What did that fucking feel like? Seeing those results, seeing that coming back at you from the mirror.
That's the first abs I've ever had, and they were simple, but just starting to show, and it was just wow. And then I was pretty hooked from there. I
Yeah.
started wanted to detail a lot of stuff, log everything, started
Yes.
measuring my like different my bodies, and trying to show growth, and I started to learn what's like about cycles and growing and
Yeah.
body recomposition. The only
Yes.
thing I have is OCD, so it's so hard to try different things and change. And I know it's way better for you. If you watch my log, I mean, you can see I can sort of do the same thing so much easier than, but I know it ain't the right. And I try to add
No,
a
I mean
couple
you
variations,
write
but
about it. You wrote about it in the notes that you sent us, and I think there's an argument to be made here. And again, this is just an observation. Whether it's some guys will only eat certain types of food when they're serious, which is kind of a mistake. The broccoli, chicken, and rice all the time, or we need to be in the gym at a certain time. We need to have a protein shake straight after. But again, at the same time, you've just proven how getting serious and getting feedback from seeing those abs made you more serious. So in a way, that structure, that kind of obsession, the OCD is almost useful. We just need to be careful that it doesn't tip over from useful into destructive, from useful to too much, that kind of thing. I mean, you talk about, just as an example here, and I'll give you something else to think about, the difference between training when you were single versus training when you had a life, business, work, partner, and so on and so forth. And a lot, again, younger listeners, training when they're single, no problem. But what about life and work and those other things that can get in the way and quote unquote mess up our routine? How much of a difference has those made over the years?
well, one thing like adding on when I was, if you're like I'm here and working and single, still it's hard and it bounces me off. And then when I got to deal with it a little bit on my own, but I can try to adjust if I'm not affecting other people around me. But once I started adding like a few friends, or then of course girlfriends and wife now, and that was changes and trying to like be willing to have to alter from that, gonna hit this and hit this at this exact time. Um, it started to be self-defeating because I couldn't have both. I couldn't really stick to that full hard routine, 6 days. Have only one day off, go to work, and still like, hey, it's nice to see you, and have like an hour with that. And I was going through a couple mental changes too, and
Mm.
injury, which I've noticed in the injury recovery, some mistakes in the training from before. So, still learning.
So touch a little bit more about single life versus married life. When I used to train Ironman, um, the divorce rate among the guys that I was training with was close to
Oh yeah,
100%.
yeah,
And that's just the reality because you got to make a decision, like you said, that hour of spending it with your spouse every night.
Mm.
You've got to put that in toward your training. And then when you're done training, you're too tired to give your spouse
Yes.
any
I'm just going to
attention.
say, Steve, even for myself, I used to have, if I was going for a rough patch in a relationship, this is the woman that I lived
Yeah,
with.
yeah.
I was training in the house and she was still giving me shit because we weren't talking during those hours that I was training. So therefore we should be communicating. So you have a balance that can be difficult, especially
Oh,
if there's certain
I don't think it's possible. If you're competing at a high
mm,
level, it's impossible. This is why you
oh
see
yeah,
so many
yeah.
athletes, pro athletes, like Tom Brady, he divorced his supermodel wife. And people say, how could
Mm,
he
mm,
divorce supermodel wife? It's because he doesn't have time to invest in the relationship. She doesn't have time. She's traveling the world, and it just doesn't work and that type of thing. So touch it on that lap, Lipster. What do you think about
a
all
little
that?
bit, yeah, before we move on, yeah.
Oh, that is like when I first started with the pro hormones, and like I said, started watching a lot and information. Is it said plan on it being pretty selfish, and so I did plan on going in, and I thought single was going to be the easiest way to go and tackle that. And so with adding like that and trying to break away, adding those choices of like that hour or not, like not only did it like it's been rough on that for this last year on the change of getting married and adjusting, and I'm pretty lucky at the same time for this change though, because we do work out together and we get along. We just do a lot of stuff side by side like that, and the
Nice.
one thing that I changed, and she's really into it. She likes to see the change too. And when starting with her, like I said, the shoulder injury from last year to now, it's been 1 year, and being able to change like that, I had to slow down and I couldn't push if I really wanted to recover in the proper way. And so like I am trying a little bit, but like the way I was doing it with I was trying to hit one muscle or the one muscle category once a week, so four times, and I'd have my body covered. But if I missed a muscle group, oh, I was devastated that whole week, and it felt as bad as if I was drinking or not. Like it started to really hit me mentally every time if I
Yeah.
missed a workout. And she did have to, like, I tried to help with, and she tried to help, and we had to learn how to communicate. And when I really had to communicate more, because like I mean I was like you don't like the mental anguish I would go through, like
Yes.
the disappointment on missing it. And she's like, wow, and she's still excited, and I like to share the excitement with her. And then it was so like hard on missing stuff.
I
And
was going to
so
say Lipster. I was going to say Lipster when I was competing, same as Steve, different sport. You've invested, as you'd have done, Lipster, an enormous amount of time to get to that point. You've just started to work things out in terms of the relationship and the person training with you, and it can almost feel, and it doesn't just have to be training; it can be someone else as well. Look at the amount of time and effort I put in, and I feel like I've just wasted all that time and all that effort because I fucked up the other day or because I missed something out, and then trying to get the other person to explain it to you, but in a perverse way. That's the same thing that sometimes when they're upset about some other element that's not training related, another part of your relationship. So you learn from
yeah.
these things. So tell us what you think you learn.
And uh the one benefit in learning with like being able to communicate and like that is I was able to start being able to accept the change and actually being able to train. If a bench press wasn't open, bench cables versus free plate and bars, barbells and dumbbells, and being able to fluctuate, because like if I went in and if like being single and that's what I was doing today was bench, that's what I'm going to do. And if I have to sit there and wait, that's what I'd do. Or hit if I was at a gym until I ended up. Now I have my own personal equipment at home too, because that way I just know I can do what I want to do. But like being able to uh, hit from different angles, cables versus a barbell or a Smith machine or a press machine versus only a barbell. Um,
Mm.
and this recovery with her and showing her different exercises, I had to open up my mind and be willing to change and still hit different areas. And I started to notice when I was able to do it and doing lighter weight just for the recovery and hitting different angles, I actually started to get a better pump. And because I was
Yes.
still working on, I was pressing with her, you know, what I've learned over time. And with her being new, she's sort of really lucky. She has really good form on so many things. Like you got to get through in the first couple of years. She's got a pretty good natural form on squat and bench. And I tell her she doesn't realize how lucky that really is. But you know, with changing, I went down in weight, so I threw away all ego lifting, and I was
Yeah.
able to step away. I needed, I wanted, I set one goal in the beginning also with wanting to be in really good shape with certain numbers. I wanted to have, you know, I wanted to be in 1,500 pound club, or I wanted to squat and deadlift this much. I just wanted to at a certain weight and bench, and I did have those numbers in my head at the same time, and it doesn't work so well for training. For you can't train both ways. And when I was injured and working through, I started to notice more of what I wanted with the lighter weight and doing it more controlled and a little bit more in reps. And I just wasn't understanding at first what people meant by, you know, more volume. I'm like, I'm doing as much as I possibly can. How am I supposed to do more? And I was actually reversing that thought, and I was actually doing more with less and more appropriately. And um, you know, now I'm actually willing to change it up with the changes I've seen over this year, and still being able to see growth with mindset, some changes in life as I've seen if we get into it. But like the not pushing myself as hard as I could, but still being able to, you know, I still had the disappointments, but still seeing, you know, wow, and pushing and still getting results. And like I said, it's been about 6 months, and just cruising along, let my body rebalance. Just wanted to make sure, like my joints, no more. Like I didn't want an ankle issue, hip flexors. I didn't want that going on in my shoulder. I just wanted to, like, give an honest effort. I do like when I go in. I didn't want to go in like 80%. I love to give 100. And so when I came in, I was just, but I also wanted to change. And I'm gonna be open to. I'm good now. I'm trying to be a little bit more open. The cardio and stuff I'm going to do on the more on the side, and I'm going to be trying to hit like two muscle, you know, each muscle twice a week versus only once. If I do miss a day, that way I'm still hitting at least that muscle still in the same week. I don't feel completely defeated if I'm like if I like I didn't hit this muscle the entire week and now it ain't till next week. So I try to take some of the things that were crushing me mentally and
Yes.
counteract them to like, hey, I'm still gonna just in case, but I'm still want to. I don't want to lose with her that, and with her, I still have my enjoyment with it, even after this time and those results and seeing them and those newbie results. I'm still in the new stage, and so it's when I still keep pushing, seeing these results. I mean, it does help in doing that, and now being willing to like counteract and with sharing with somebody, seeing some of
Mm.
my flaws and being so stubborn and being
I'm
able
gonna,
to step
I'm gonna,
back
sorry,
and
I'm gonna
change it.
interrupt you there. Do you
Yep.
think even helping someone else has actually helped you because you're teaching them the right way to do things and actually learning what's working for you at the same time because you're teaching them? Is that a little bit of truth there?
Oh yes. And it does, yes, and it helps. And I mean, I had somebody showing me, and it was one way. I mean, I only got to work out with him for so long, and he's married and down the road and a little
Mm.
bit, but he did it when he was younger, so he just sort of helped me, and he gave me some of the equipment and weights, and said, "Here you go." But now with some of the learning and changes over time, and showing like with her and being able to share that, like
Yes.
like right, you smile, when the first time you grab a weight and you sort of bounce it off the chest, or even if you swing into it and you throw the bar up and it's like nope, and wow, if you drop down to like just this weight and you come up here and now you feel that muscle squeeze and tight,
Mm, mm,
has nothing to
mm.
do with that the weight. Don't ever look at that number. And it's sort of hard to get out of your mental way, but when you're sharing with somebody else and
Yes.
you see their enjoyment in it, and it brings that enjoyment's important, and they see their first results and then you're still getting yours, it brings a good nice loop. And like I said, it helped me be willing to approach it in a new way. I'm gonna, like I said, I wiped it, and I'm building a new routine. And I know, like this week and next week is the way where I'm building it between myself. I'm using two different AI programs with the push pull program, and it's like I'm gonna see how it builds it, and then see what it says, and compare with my thoughts. And sort of being open with like complete suggestions on how we're changing and building the routine.
I'm going to ask you, because obviously what we've talked about here, especially is the learning process regarding working out. But what about, did you learn anything about food? Because you touched upon that earlier, where you said the difference between whole food, prepared food, and so on. So talk about what you've learned about nutrition, which has actually helped you recover from training.
Especially like when you're logging and watching your nutrition, and if you're dieting or gaining weight, and when you're exercising and how you feel. And also once you start, like I started pro hormones and on, I've did a lot of blood work. And so like you watch some of your basic blood work and with what you're eating and your cholesterol and stuff like that, it's common with stuff to go up so much and or throw some markers off. And you just even straight from frozen food to frozen chicken, and you think you're eating nice and healthy like that, but your cholesterol is right on the top of high, but you're just maybe 1 point over or a couple points below, so you're doing really good. And but then you start going in and people start saying, well, whole foods, and it's like, what is a whole food? And you start watching that and cooking it, not using the frozen foods no more. You start dropping preservatives, dropping not eating cereal, and going to the eggs, and still hitting the same calories and those macros. But then you go in and you check your blood work, and you're almost seeing like markers right in the middle where they're supposed to be, and your joints ain't aching or a little bit recovery. You can feel a small difference, and you feel a little bit more up. You definitely feel strength, and you also just a little bit how you gain weight and how you when you drop down. I would say definitely will play a difference in that too. And I've did it like I think I'm on my fifth time in between playing between 170 and 205. I was hoping to be, and now I haven't went to in the 170s in the over a year, and so I went 200 to 170, 205 to 180. 207 to in the 190s, and I look pretty good for summer. My wedding for 188, but
Absolutely.
like
I was going to
the
say, I think your body numbers slowly getting to the point where in a year or two, 205 will be the lowest number that you go to because you know that you look like you look currently do. Steve, what's your thoughts on the changes in nutrition that Lipster's made and the difference he's seen in his numbers overall?
Yeah, it's definitely important. I mean, what you put in your body is huge. I mean, the more I learn about this stuff over time and read studies and see the real world effects of people around the world who eat healthier
Mm.
and who don't, the more I realize it's really 95% of this is diet. Like what you put in your
Yeah.
body can either get in your way or improve you. But I want to get into, and
and
this kind of
sleep.
this, yeah, and
And
sleep is,
sleep. Yeah.
yeah, sleep is
Yeah. Yeah.
crucial as well. That's when your body rests and recovers. But touch upon, and this has to do with both sleep I think, and nutrition, the OCD thing
Mm.
that you mentioned to Mobster and I in the notes. And first of all, educate everyone out there what OCD is, because a lot of people say, "Oh, I'm OCD," because they're
Yeah, they
neat.
don't. They just mean they're obsessive about one small thing, not everything. Yeah.
All right, so yeah, I'm curious, Lipster, talk about that and talk about how you know your OCD. Did you get diagnosed, or is this something that you kind of
Oh
self-diagnosed?
no, just personal, and so not diagnosed or nothing, but like I've always like when I get into like certain something. Whether or not like I started to watch movies, if I started to color code them, I'm colorblind. I got to do it better than anybody. It's just a personal drive, but it's like when I get into, I played a video game World of Warcraft, and I was a warlock, and number one goal, I just had to be the best. I had to be ranked in the top. Like I couldn't be in the bottom. So like it doesn't matter the subject so much if it's something that really grabs my attention or interest. Younger was obviously a different different goals and stuff going on or entertainment. But I've always had like the compulsion to always just do that is
So
better than anybody.
you obsess over specific things and you want to be the best at it. Sounds like that's more that
Personality. Yeah, the A
you're like
type
a type
personality. Steve.
A
Yeah.
more
Mm.
than anything to me. What do you think?
Mm.
Yeah, and so I best I try to do is at least you got to admit it to yourself. and it's
Yeah.
hard.
Sometimes it backfires on you too,
And
because like when you are that type of person and you obsess over one
Yes.
thing, if you lose that one thing,
Yes.
let's say you get injured
Yes.
and
Yes.
you're gone for like months and you can't train anymore, it can really fuck you up mentally. What do you think about that?
Yes.
it would have been probably, it's been a little bit of mental this year, I'd say, because of like that. Just my shoulder hit right when I was probably hitting some really good peak goals, and there was no rushing it. And when I first heard it back in January last year, it was probably just a small rotator cuff or tendonitis and a little bit of flare up and a tear, or more just age and a flare. And just when some stuff happened there, it's in the blog. That's when somebody the passing away, and I helped a father-in-law or the father move a car that got stuck in a snowdrift, and so I lifted the car. You're not going to leave that car stuck, and I just lifted, and I just heard everything in my shoulder down to my wrist just tear and crack and crinkle, and I knew, but I didn't let go, and I
I'm
pushed the
going to
car
push into that.
forward.
Sorry, I'm going to push into that particular thing. You mentioned it in your topic notes, and this is entirely if you're comfortable versus being uncomfortable. So if you want to move on, that's perfectly fine. I understand a little bit of this myself. We all will as we go through life. One of the topics you suggested, and you just touched upon something, loss, grief, and training as survival. Steve and I have touched upon this on the shows. You say in brackets, this is the emotional core. We talked about control, we talked about OCD, and sometimes wanting to have a certain structure. The impact of certain things in our life, we can sometimes grab hold of the weights. Talk your personal experience, if you're comfortable, with grief, losing a partner, having a death in a family, and the effect that can have on you, and whether you've anchored yourself with the weights and training and OCD or whatever. If you don't want to, we're perfectly fine with moving on as well.
And well, in the when my one I had one relationship that ended, and I just used the I focus harder on lifting and personal goals, and like I'm just going all in on myself. Well, but it wasn't a bad ending. It was just a relationship that was at its maximum level. That's as far as we were going to go. We were just friends, we were meant to be friends. And so that was one thing. So it wasn't really a setback there mentally, but other than it let me be more selfish to myself and drive in harder. Over the time when I came before I injured and I started dating somebody, that's the person we're talking about now,
Yep.
there. And, I started dating, and I was like, when I first started, and this is part of where my change came from. So it's a really important part. Um,
Yes.
I was like, if you want to get to know, and this is somebody I've known my whole life since high school, and so we've always been friends and seen each other on and off throughout life. 5 years here, 10 years there, and I was like, well, if you want to see me, you might want to get to know me. I'm not like how I used to be as a kid. I work out. I'm really dedicated to it. You might want to see what my routine is. I have very little time in life for stuff. And so like I was introducing her to my routine, and I didn't budge on anything at that time. I mean, I worked out I slept for 6 hours and 45 minutes. I had 1 hour and 45 minutes to work out. Sometimes I had 17 minutes to spare. That gives me 12 minutes to eat. I mean,
Structured, structured. One, yeah, yeah, yeah. Go on, go on, go on.
So, like, I was like, when I say I got a little OCD into like trying to do stuff, like I was timing, like I know 6 hours and 40 minutes. If I'm below that, I don't have as much recovery, and so I do sometimes get a little compulsive, um, to the minutes, and so like meeting somebody and trying to say that is thought it was a little crazy, but she was just, we were just like I said at the dating stage, but we also known each other forever. She was, she also seen me throughout my whole life, and it was somebody she thought was cute in high school. When I was married, I remember she seen me in the bowling alley once, and she was like, "Oh my God, he doesn't look like he did in high school." And that was the first time I was like, "Oh my God, I'm 250, I'm married," and that's somebody who thought I was cute, and now I was like, "Oh my God, dad bod." And so it's sort of funny. That was actually part of wanting to change, was that also, and so here I am, just letting her see how I work out. See, my lifestyle, I'm pretty busy. She works, and we were getting to know each other. And it was just a few months in, and talking and hanging out in some spare time, leading to dating. Like I said, a lifelong friendship and several dating, and to started to maybe spend the night sometimes and over there and seeing. And she would watch me work out, or she'd go to work, and just like, oh, and it's interesting. But I didn't miss a workout, didn't miss a beat, and took pictures of my food, and I logged every calorie and still like there, and then just tried to fit in the few minutes, and I could add texting at work. And a little bit, she had her own things, and she was like getting to know me. So her family knows me. She's always had a crush on me and wanted to date. And she had a prior problem in life. She was supposed to be recovering, and she had apparently a slip, or maybe never stop.
Yeah.
And I mean, I came home, and she was gone. And I
Wow.
was like, that's about where we're gonna start to say like, okay, I'm gonna start a relationship with you.
Mm-hmm.
And we were gonna be like more past dating, girlfriend and boyfriend. And it's like somebody I've known forever. I thought we started like, I'd say you'd start to almost like to have in love feelings.
Yes.
And and she was passed away, and that's what I walked into, and it was hard, and it was disappointing from seeing what it was, and you had to deal with it mentally. It
Yeah.
was crushing. I'm somebody who takes it hard, but if I deal with grief differently, I guess. It made me believe in like heaven, but like I hit myself, and I try to make it hurt until it doesn't hurt, or I just don't stop thinking about it until I find like what I need to find emotionally. But like even though that day we went through it, and I had you call parents and everything, I call my mom, and I'm like, Mom, can you go out with me to the gym? I don't know if I can do this, but I can't miss my workout today. And I still worked out that night. And I sat there crying the entire workout. My mom's like, you can't do this. I was like, I can't miss my workout. So when I say I didn't like to miss a workout, like
So
I
so
still didn't miss my
Yeah.
workout.
Go
And
on. Go on, Steve.
that was how I tried to
It's
like
really
survive too.
the anchors. Sorry, the
yeah.
anchors that we grab hold of, the things that we to stop our sanity or emotion becoming too much or whatever, and especially in the nature of the situation, the growing attraction, the growing affection. And it's again, this is more for the younger listeners, Stephen Lipster. This when you are of a certain age, you will have these experiences. It's the nature of things, and how we deal with those things is the important stuff. I think Lipster's need almost to go to the gym sounds a bit crazy, but we understand it. So yeah, I mean, from that place, because I don't want to say moving on, but from that place, where do you think you've gone since then till now? From that
Um,
situation, from those days, from dealing with what you had to deal with.
uh, it took a little while to get on. I was like, pushing and stuck. And
Mm,
a lot of people were, coming, praying, or just saying hi, support. And somebody was
mm,
just like, would they want you to be sad, or would they want to be in your way of your
yes.
goals? And I
Mm,
thought that in my head, and something just clicked. And I was like, no, they would actually not. And this is in your, life comes and circles. I was one person's complete their life, and it just was like, okay. And then, that's her place, and I felt heaven. And it started going okay, and I was like, okay, just now it's what's coming tomorrow. Um, and it was shortly after that, I just kept working out, and I started hanging out. I started talking with my wife, and
yeah.
back then, she's also somebody I've known my whole life. She was my childhood's best friend's little sister, and so. Later on, here we are, and we were talking, and I've been talking with her for a couple years online, and she actually never understood at first. And I was like, I take my like working out and sort of serious. I don't like play
Mm,
around as I
mm,
did as a
mm,
kid. I don't want, I'm not looking trying to like go. I don't have a lot of time for non-serious stuff. And so like
mm,
I'm actually if I do want to like if we do hang out like I want you to know I'm coming serious or you know well intentioned and but because I'm gonna be changing my life. That was before, and then we like in between this happened, and we ended up talking a little bit after that, and I was like, when we hang out and we talked as friends, and I don't know, we sort of liked each other pretty fast, and mindset was like, one thing that changed with me, and I was getting to know with her, and was if you like, I don't want to be a robot no more, and I wanted to be human, and
Mm.
I still want what I want and the results, but I didn't want to be a robot no more.
Is that like you're ready to open yourself up emotionally, which for men can be sometimes difficult to do, but arguably it's allowing you to grow as a man.
Yeah, and it was, and the best thing I do like with her and is just I tell her my raw feelings. Sometimes it's complicated because I try to like if I don't like something, I say I don't like it, but I have to say I don't like it because I don't want to pretend or
Yes.
something, or I don't like to miss a workout. So she sees my raw feelings like that. But at the same time, like we're together and I like, it ain't your fault or nothing. Like you got to understand like what I'm going through, and she's listening. And as I say, like, because missing the workout and how it's mentally inside my head has not a lot to do with her. And we had a lot of goals. At the same time, when we got married, our married, my 2 year goal mark was like 3 weeks after that was to finish up and hit a certain goal in my head, and it
Mm.
was sort of a conflict there. And I was like, oh, I got to be okay and going to be married. And I was like, but I'm going to miss my goal. And then it's also like, this is part of why then, she drives me crazy. I got to give up this goal. But that's what I sort of like, love because I was, here I am happy and enjoying it
Yes.
too. And I'm still
Yes.
going through my recovery and I got to work out differently and I'm not pushing as hard. And yeah, I'm getting different results and I'm getting a different pump and like friends and like that. And, I've got a lot of the 20-year-old daughters and
Mm.
friends like that around, and they're the guys are on the football team, and they're like that's how I want to look, and they're talking about like me and my shirts off, and here I am, I'm still disappointed because I'm like 3 pounds off what I was supposed to hit, and I've got
Yeah.
the 20-year-old guys on the football team saying, no, like, that's what I want to look like, and their girlfriend's like, no, like that's too much, like no, you're fine the way you are.
There's a
And
thing sometimes when we're looking because we've set ourselves that goal, like you said, oh, I wanted to hit this number, or you hit this number, and even if you're happy for 5 minutes, 5 minutes later, oh, I could have probably done a bit more, and yet people are looking across at you, as you just said, from 20-year-old football players looking at you, going, no, 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 that's fucking amazing. Why aren't you happy with amazing? Because we had a number in our mind or whatever. Let me push the subject a different direction now, because a big part of these shows, of course, is the member, yourself, Lipster, using PED. So you mentioned pro hormones earlier on. Talk a little bit about switching from pro hormones to steroids, your journey there, the process, and what you learned from that as well about yourself.
I'd say the lucky thing was is at least I like I said with even starting with a pro or not was learning to not try to push anything. I mean, maybe I had a fear or try to push anything past what you're supposed to. If you're gonna like I don't go in and I wasn't well, I'm gonna do this for 16 weeks or I'm gonna go 6 months or 8 months and see. I came in with at least understanding, like by the time I was switching into it, like understanding baselines and the different testosterone and the branches and DHT and testosterone and the nandrolone and going in with estradiol and so I started to at least understand a lot of my blood markers and things like that. I also learned you don't need to try to get everything you possibly can and take everything at once and take as much as you possibly can.
Yeah.
At least I was able to avoid those kind of mistakes because of the pro. I mean, I started seeing the results, and I mean, I got in my head. I was like, well, if you try to take too much and then you're just going to keep needing more and more, well, it's going to actually be, won't be affordable. And so I tried to get as much out of as what little I could put in, and seeing
Yes.
the results helped me. And so that discipline, probably switching in, it was probably really crucial and lucky because
You,
then at the same time, it was like you see newbie gains all over again. Like, whoa, wait a minute.
mm, mm,
This
mm,
ain't just
mm.
like, um, feeling at like six, 700 testosterone now, like 1,500 or 2,000 as high as I went in the beginning, and I was
Wow.
like, wow. And you feel a little bit of the aggression and a little bit of a drive, and I knew you only wanted a little bit of adding in. But at least I started small, and
Yeah.
when I started even with just testosterone, even from like from here from a clinic, and like just above starting off with like hone and starting off with straight TRT prescription level, and starting to see like now even using like that, and then adding some of the pro hormones with a test base, and it was like um, even more results. And then said, well, God, instead of taking like 800 milligrams of 19 or 9 actually trying DECA and just starting off, they say 50 for a doctor dose. See this in 300 milligrams. I'm going to stay safe. I'll see how 75, 50 to 75 it feels. I felt the difference in the joints. I also felt a little bit of strength. I was able to not really notice side effects like the water and bloating, but I am very sensitive on between prolactin and estrogen, like side effects that are not like I don't have low prolactin. I'd be on good, but I have like some side effects, mainly in the right in the nipple and the gland area. I'm going to be sensitive to any and notice on any nandrolone.
It's
And
something I'm gonna ask you because I actually think your OCD or elements of your OCD are useful here. You seem very self-aware to your response, meaning the side effects you've just mentioned. You talked about dosage and knowing the difference between dosages and how it's affected your body. You actually gave us a bunch of topics here to talk about. So I'll ask you a couple of these questions. One of the questions, which I think is a great question, what do people misunderstand most about enhancement use? Let's just play with that one for a minute. People looking in from the outside who don't understand what you're doing, what do you think they misunderstand about what you're doing?
if they think like it's if you're looking at it for like some magic effect, like you're doing this to cheat, or like you're just like this is how you do it, and boof, you look like that overnight. Uh, the worst thing I can say is if you're looking at, if you don't understand and where my mindset was, and where like so many people are at, like that know, is you don't go in not knowing you're going to be lazy. Like you're somebody who's going in and you're pushing your body, you're pushing your limits, eating healthy, you're paying attention to what you're putting in your body. You're not doing anything that's trying to cheat or cut a corner. Um, if you were doing this all wrong and eating really poorly, I really believe that using any sort of enhancements or PEDs would only enhance really negatively. And so if you were sitting on the couch hoping you were taking this and going to look good, you'd probably be one who are going to come across probably someone with the more side effects or weight gain, really poor cholesterol and things like that. Uh, but when you put in that really solid
Something
effort,
you said. Sorry, something you said, Lipster, is there's a couple of things here, but this last one is a beautiful way to sum it up. It says, "Tools don't replace work ever." I love that line. Explain for the younger listeners why the things that you need to do, training, getting your food right, getting your recovery right, are as important, if not more important, arguably maybe than the PEDs. And then, if you like, tell us about the current cycle you're doing as well.
I would say like and what I've learned the most on that is definitely going to be I don't even I go really close. Your diet is important. You definitely, and I mean your diet, you can key it in, and it's just definitely going to be very helpful. But you definitely don't want to be overeating. You don't want to be under eating. It's important to know what your body needs, and then if you want to go up, to push a little bit more in food or to have a little less, but make sure you're doing it in a healthy way and on those gains. So that the diet and knowing what you need is really important. And I believe the other thing is sleep. I mean, that recovery and that, I believe you miss out on results if you don't get that sleep in. And it was hard for me because I didn't sleep well before, and I've added working out, and I actually could sleep that. And it is important. I see that sleep does make a really good difference on your recovery, your
Right.
feeling, but I also think your body, just looking in the mirror and your results, and then your what you do, you know, your workout, your routine, your effort, what you're putting in, you're going to start seeing results. And if you're seeing results, you're past the newbie results. That's when you, if you're adding the PEDs or any past that, that's where you're just going to continue. And I'm still like, you know, now with adding that, I'm a little bit past probably the seeing the newbie gains for the last time,
Yeah.
but still seeing them, but then popping one more and like, oh wow, now I remember I never had veins in my arms and I couldn't see where my bicep was and I couldn't flex. And so like, you know, you start to see that like I go and look and by the end of the week, it's like, oh, there's another liner lined up by my hip and oh, I see one rib. Now there's a second rib on the side. Or my first time I could flex my lat muscle. It took me probably 6 months to know how to flex my lats.
So you
Steve,
may,
Steve, you want to jump in, mate? Go
yeah.
on.
So let's talk a little bit about sleep. And you mentioned sleep at least 2 or 3 times here, so it's very important to you. You're a busy guy, you got a lot going on. You know, and touch upon sleep. How much sleep do you try to get consistent? What are some tricks when it comes to sleep that you've learned over the years that you can share to the listeners out there who aren't getting as much sleep as they should?
um, I mean, if you're not getting as much as you straightforward can as a solid sleep, I mean, hopefully you can at least be fitting in a few naps throughout the day in there. I mean, it sounds a little bit crazy, but like the stress you're putting on your body, it just adds up and it's easy to add an injury. I noticed like once you start pushing at the end of a cycle or the end of like if you started out this weight and you're pushing and trying to gain and you gained a few pounds and you put a few more pounds on the bar, all of a sudden this joint here starts to hurt that joint there, or it's when you tear something. And I mean, once you start pushing your body to the limits, that recovery just becomes probably what I feel the most important, just for in between preventing injury and allowing to push that to the furthest recovery. Because if you don't recover, you're not gonna push to the next week. You're not gonna keep adding. You're not gonna be able to keep, you know, adding on that strength or trying to push to the next. You know, I'm gonna add 10 pounds on this lift, or if you're in the reps. And so that was in the beginning hard for a little bit, but switching back just knowing sleep alone and even being able to sleep well and working out in a recovery and actually seeing what pumps are and actually working out in a little bit healthier of a way and not pushing as hard like that, still pushing results. And without the sleep, I mean, I do see it seems to stall. And so, while like when I was more on the cruise part, like I did see the sleep, you know, you started looking the same and you don't start to see the changes once I started lacking in sleep. And I did lose sleep in the beginning of when I started the relationship with my wife. With adding in a relationship, the first thing I sacrificed trying to keep happy was my sleep. And I just seen a little bit difference in results. And I had by summertime, I was like, I need to sleep was more important than I could deal with. So like under 5 hours, 4 hours, it was adding up.
So, what are some of sleep tips you can share with people out there? Some is it routines, things like not watching TV before bed, like not getting your like meditating before bed? What are some tips you can give them?
For,
Some
for
easy
me, I
tips.
do a little bit. I try to at least do a little bit on consistency because I do work third shift. That makes it a little hard. So I do try to keep I'm gonna go to bed around this time. Um, so with that, I definitely can't have a TV going. I like to, I used to, but like if I'm trying to take a nap, I can have a TV going. But if I have a TV going, trying to go to sleep, it's gonna keep me up. So, like, it's good for me. Like, if I know if I go through and burn a full amount of energy in my day, and with my eating and working, I do a lot of walking at work. I do my last meal at 3, so by the time I'm coming home, getting ready to go to sleep, it's about 4 hours later. So I'm like not hungry, but I'm not stuffed full, but I'm full,
Yeah.
and I know where I'm at, and I get my stuff ready for the next day, clear my head. I know
Yes.
I got my plan ready. I know what my workout is. I've added a little bit of fluctuation. Hey, I can get up about this time if I get up earlier here. Now that I'm not pushing like I need every minute of my day, I've tried to,
Yeah.
hey, as long as I can get the 40 minutes in, I've added a little bit of fluctuation, being able to be afloat. So if I do need a little bit of extra sleep, I might, if I get out, I'll take a 20-minute nap before work, or, and I know I don't try to push that. And if I come out, I might work out a little less to add that 20 minutes of sleep. I just, I've learned, just feeling that recovered and going out and being cleared mindset does make a good difference. And if you start dragging on that, it hurts you. So like
It
not
can feel,
worrying
it can
about
feel
it,
like
trying to stick to the routine.
what we said about the alcohol earlier on, and you noticing with the alcohol the difference it made to the recovery for the week, etc., and how long it took sort of for that to go away. I think sometimes there's an argument for the sleep thing there. Before we finish the show, how long you've been on Evo? Has Evo made a difference? Has the support you've had from Evo been impactful on what you're doing right now? Let us know in the now.
So I've been on there a little over probably the 2 years, 2.5 years, and in between with what I've learned and being able to share a journey. I've went through a couple relationships, had support, and at those certain times, I actually didn't have many people I was talking to. Like I said, I was really dedicated to myself. So when I'd post stuff on the blog, the support back was about the support I had in real life to keep pushing
Mm,
on. And
mm,
so for the last 2.5 years, it's helped me to start building the routine. That's where some people then jumped in, told me about Whole Foods, helped change my diet, gave me some information where to look, and then being able to be willing to change and different workouts and routines and exercises, um, building up like different cycles currently, like the one I'm on, stepping way back, being safe with it, blood work, pushing health and safety first. So it's been very helpful, and I think the biggest thing is the safety of it and the knowledge that
mm.
came. And then also with saying, I've actually found a happiness with life and still trying to do the bodybuilding thing and the positive mindset. I would say I did sharing it with everybody, and even
Yes.
online, it helped me get to this point of being happy and still
Mm.
going out saying this year is still results to come.
I'm going to say Lipster, and we don't always realize this. And I think perhaps maybe you have, or maybe you haven't. You sharing what you're doing and you sharing what you've learned and the changes that you've had is as beneficial as the advice and support you might have had, because somebody listening to this show right now, hopefully more than one person listening to the show right now will go, that's me. I haven't learned that yet. And listening to the Lipster learning it and Lipster understanding the importance of things that you now understand is going to benefit someone else. Lipster. Any final thoughts from you, Steve, before we finish the
Yeah.
show?
So how did you find out about Evo originally? Talk about that, and who are a handful of your favorites on the forum that have really
Mm,
motivated
mm.
you and really supported you in your log, and some of your other favorites who you really enjoy reading their logs.
Um, Man, I was in between when I was on through doing my first blog. It was on like Facebook, and it was through like Vintage Muscle, and I somebody was in there, and they sent me a personal message and said, "Hey, I go here and I've got a lot. I see you like a lot of information. You help a lot of people out. You've shared your knowledge and what you've learned with these products. You're always honest in what you're doing." And and they sent me like that in a DM, and I went and checked it out, and I started off just reading different forums in there. SARMs was the first one that I was probably what I came across that was different from pro hormone. So that was what one of the first things I seen, and then I just started reading more, and I said try to introduce myself, and then somebody brought up writing a blog, and I was like, well, how did I do that? And then, well, then it was like, I believe you were pretty quick on joining in, and Mobster and NP Classic, and been pretty well right off the beginning with me, and watching and from my first breakup and saying, supportive. And one of the first lines was, "You'll make her jealous." And that's what started with the
Yeah.
blog. Was that goal.
It happened to me actually in my mid
if it gets us
20s.
through the day,
Because it happened to me in my
if it
mid
gets us,
20s. I got dumped by a
yeah,
girl, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to get in the best shape of my life. I'm going to spend the next,
yeah, I'm
3 months
gonna show
getting
that
the best shape of
bitch.
my life just to show her up. So, who are some of the guys on the forum off the top of your head that you really enjoy reading their logs? Is there anyone, or maybe what kind of stuff in the other people's logs do you like reading?
Mm.
I've seen a lot about cycles and cutting. I've also I wanted to learn with peptides, and then dieting with a cut fast and fasting. I've
Mm.
read a lot of uh, I'm not good with pronouncing names like Butler Rove.
Yeah,
I've read,
Lev, yeah.
and
Lev,
so
yeah.
I've read a lot of his, and um, ULTER. He's helped me out quite a bit, and he's
Yeah.
followed through, and I've had a couple new ones adding on, and but like that would be right there, and I'd say Mobster right off the bat. I mean, I
Mm.
was going
Thank you very much.
through, and like I said, MPP Classic, I was looking at
Mm.
pictures and different diets and different cycles and what was used. And then I also like advice and responses.
Yes.
And it was important to see, like, I was like, wow, the support. Like, I didn't see, like, I was like, wow, there's a lot of information and knowledge here, but like a lot of people coming out and not holding you back or like, whoa, you're doing this, or like it was always nice to like, hey, I can come here and I'm gonna throw this out. I feel safe, and being able to be corrected and learn. And so and then that's what
Something
made me
Steve,
start my
sorry,
blog.
Lipster, something Steve said back in the day, stuff that you might not be aware of. Certain forums, they almost wanted to hold on to
EVO.
information, and they enjoyed people fucking up. And what I think Evo does, that you seem to be suggesting, is we want you to benefit from our mistakes. We want you to learn what we've had to learn, but without making the same mistakes and so on. So that, and again, as you said, being open to being corrected helps, which again, you've transformed through life. You've talked about your changes. Some of your thought processes have changed from where you was when you were younger to where you are now. You're probably more receptive to those things, and we're older fuckers. We're more likely to give you that information. Listen, we
Yep.
got a ton of stuff that you presented with us. I'm going to ask you just for one final thought before we finish the show. So, if you want to put a message out there for the benefit of the listeners, one final thing from Lipster before we finish.
You know, I think one of the most things that if you're gonna go past just staying healthy and working out for your own personal motivation, and if you're gonna actually look in and wanting body transformation and pushing the PEDs, uh, just make sure like the knowledge and information you get, you make sure you've already know that you're gonna put that sleep in, you're gonna get your diet down, you're gonna put in 100% effort on your workout routine. You want to know that's the life choice you're going to be making, and when you say life choice, you're going in. You want to make sure if you got those goals and you're going to dedicate to yourself,
Yeah.
you got to make that commitment, because once you start, um, and if you're really into it and you start seeing these results, I don't believe you're going to want to commit to it, and you're going to want to look at longevity. You're going to want to keep make sure you stick to the enjoyment, because
Yes.
once you start seeing the results, you're not going to want it taken away from you. So you're not going to want to do this in an unhealthy way, and you're not going to want to do it in a way where you're here today and tomorrow, you're already you're going to have to take a break and you need to recover, and weightlifting, it may not be your thing anymore. You're gonna want to change your life goals. So
Mm.
health and like that and your knowledge is going to be so important. But I love being healthy like this, and You know, like
It's
my wife now, I've been able to take care of. You know, she went and got her blood work. She's just taking normal, healthy, working out with me, and it's the first time she's ever seen her blood markers were perfect, and that was just with diet, sleep, and multivitamins and probiotics, and just the supplements I take to stay healthy, like that way off the shelf. She's never seen that. She's 40 years old, and you know, she's happy like that and seeing results, and you know, that's the dedication you got to do, and you know, it's a life change, but it's for yourself and it's worth it.
Thank you very much, Lipster. I mean, again, if we've said this on a couple of recent shows, we've got so many other things with Lipster's suggestions and topics that we could dig into and probably go deeper in a particular way. But thank you so much for coming on today. I think Steve, and I hope the listeners as well will agree with me that Lipster's learning process and thought processes and the way that he's approached things that have changed, and even the support that he's had both from the forums and with partners, etc., has made a big difference to the changes. And come on to his log, see the transformation for yourself. Hopefully, Lipster will be able to get you back on again in a not too distant future, so we
Yeah.
can dig into it even more.
Yes.
Please note, sorry, please note, we are not doctors and the opinions are ours. It is our view based on our experience and views on the topic. Our podcasts are for informational purposes and entertainment only. The freedom of speech and the First Amendment apply.